I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited today to introduce you to April Lewis Park. She is the Chief Communications Officer and Director of Education at Consolidated Credit. And I'm really eager to delve deep into your career journey now, April, and really learn more about how you came to be in this position and why you're doing what you're doing. So just give us about a 90-second overview of that.
Um, well, I got into financial literacy and financial education in a really roundabout way. I didn't grow up with any financial education myself, and my passion was journalism and storytelling and finding things that people didn't know about and trying to bring it to light. So I studied political science and journalism with a minor in public relations. I ended up during college working at John Hancock, a financial insurance company in Boston, and I was in charge of looking at 401k hardship letters and organizing files for people who needed hardship money out of their retirement fund. And I was like, what is this? Why would somebody want to get into their retirement fund to bail themselves out or other good reasons, buy a home, um, children with college to pay for that? But I just had no idea this existed. So, anyway, I did journalism for a while, and then I kind of went to public relations. The journalism field was a bit cutthroat and a lot of work for little pay at the time. And public relations, there was really a need for it. People were asking me, companies were asking me how they could get news stories or coverage for events and things they were doing. And I was like, okay, I can help you do that. And so I did, and it worked out really well. And it was really not difficult for me to do since I had been on the other side. And I moved to Florida, and I met a gentleman who had started a nonprofit credit counseling agency. And he was like, how do I get the word out to people? How do I let people know there's help? And I said, I think I am the person to help you do that here. So it's a real roundabout way, but yeah, it all came together.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating, and I think you had shared in your intake form
Mhm.
that that you were wishing that we had more education in high school. And I can tell you that I'm a financial professional and have been for over 25 years, right? But I will tell you, I did not learn anything even in college about managing our own money,
Mhm.
yeah, any of that stuff. So I agree with you on that. But yeah, tell me what you see as the biggest problem in your industry now and what you're doing to solve that.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that the youth are not taught about money in any kind of practical way. So we're seeing people who are in college, and they're getting credit cards and they're spending, and then they're taking on loans that they might not necessarily understand how the interest accumulates and things are amortized and how long it's going to take them to pay it off. And the financial aid officers of the people that I've experienced don't do a great job at really setting the scene for the college student so that they understand the big picture of how much their college will cost in the end. So I think one of the biggest challenges is just getting the word out to young people and the parents, right? It really should start at home. If the parents have a good idea of how their money journey is, I feel like they should have that full disclosure to their children because learnings from their practical learning and what parents have learned about money should really be passed on to their kids. And I know we're trying to break the stigma, and I feel like we've been trying to break the stigma for 10 years about
Mhm.
money shame and like, let's talk about money. But I still see it every day that parents aren't communicating with the children, children are making the same mistakes. So I'd really love to see some sort of initiative where parents really feel comfortable about sharing their journey. And if they don't feel that they are good with money or they're not really sure what to do about how to handle their own finances, that they would seek help and then bring their children into that conversation if they have children.
I'm really curious to know how are you getting the word out to these the high school age children and their parents about the education or the literacy that you're providing?
Yeah. It's been a challenge. We are located in South Florida, and we have tried for years to get into the school system here. We've had some success, and we have some partnerships with some of the schools where our community outreach team and educators will go into the schools and do budgeting workshops, talk about how to set up a budget, what credit is, what is a credit score, why is it important, and how not to mess it up when you're young. So hopefully it's easier. But so the school system is a great place to start, but every county has their own rules. Every state has their own rules, right? So there is some legislation in certain states that seniors in high school have to pass like a half year or half semester financial literacy course, which is great, but I don't really think it's enough. I really think that money concepts should start in elementary school, and
Mhm.
that's with change, how to buy things, things cost money, and just introduce those concepts to little kids. And that way, as they grow up, they understand, oh, mom and dad work. That's to bring home money. That's to pay for the food and, on our table and our house, and then all the extra things that they want. And kids don't, they don't think in those terms unless it's presented to them. And I think the children that I have encountered that have those lessons are fantastic. And they will be like, oh no, I'm not going to get that because I know I want to save up for, X, Y, and Z in the summertime. And they actually come up with that themselves because they understand what it is. So I really think that's one way. We also work with junior achievement. I don't know if everybody listening will be aware of junior achievement, but it's a great program for middle and high school students across the country where they teach career readiness and financial literacy. So the whole goal of junior achievement is to let children know most people work. Here's the workforce, how to make the most of it, expose them to different jobs, and then also, as they expose them to the jobs, they expose them to salaries. And then in that salary, they have to budget and pay for things. And that's where we come in. We have curriculum set up with our local junior achievement where we help go over how to have a budget.
That is so awesome. So I have to share this with you, and I'm going to have to find it so I can literally share it with you. I saw a Facebook post within the last day or two, and it was literally a woman uh, describing how she works with her 5 year old and I think 7 year old,
Mm-hmm.
literally doing daily tasks to earn money and pay rent and all the things. It's not a lot, but it's the principle of the education. And I'm like, oh, that is just so cool. And I'm not a parent, so, but I'm putting it out there going, okay, parents, this is what we need to be doing. So, yay, that sounds awesome. So I'll see if I
Yeah,
can
that's
find
so
that to
cool.
share with you because
Definitely.
I thought it was very impactful.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's the unique way that you're actually helping others? What makes you unique from the other people that do the type of work you do?
Well, I think, I just think the background really has helped me connect with people. I grew up raised by my grandmother, who was amazing. She was already 65 years old when I was born. So she was only living on her Social Security and her veterans benefits from her husband, who had passed away many, many years before. But in that situation, we were living in public housing, which was really nice. I mean, my grandmother made a beautiful life for me. But the other community members where we were living, they weren't on track to go to college per se. They weren't really on track to make it out of the kind of, project living Section 8 idea.
Hmm.
And because my grandmother always talked to me about, oh, you're definitely going to college, there's, it's set, like she set up that for me in my mind. So as I went through high school, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I started writing. I won a couple of writing awards. I had a great communications teacher in high school who said, you know what, you'd be really good at this, and I think you should strive for this. So I got scholarships into college. I ended up at Emerson College in Boston, in the Back Bay, which was an amazing experience. And it really honed my storytelling skills and relatability skills to help people understand situations. So I think that, coupled with my experience with not knowing anything about money at all, like I had to get student loans, I had credit cards, I didn't really know what to do with that. Um, Luckily, my student aid professional, she did a really good job at explaining to me, and I don't feel like I took out too many student loans. I mean, I ended up with like 35,000. It was still at 8% interest, which is sort of what it is today.
Right.
But for me, that opportunity to go to college was greater than any sum of money. Like that to me was my ticket. And it was my ticket because I was able to pay them off and settled it up and it was fine. But I think that experience of not having financial education and then having the exposure at John Hancock, looking at people who wanted to tap into their 401ks for a variety of reasons, many medical, but some was just they overspent and they wanted to pay off credit card debt and they wanted to pay off miscellaneous debt and they would write these long letters, and it really opened my eyes to how people handle money. So when I got into the credit counseling field, I was like, oh, I have a little bit of background in this. I'm like, I've been reading about this, I've been preparing files on these kind of topics. And so then I took my journalism love, uh, coupled with public relations, and I said, let me get the word out. Let me interview a few clients who have had great success in their stories. So I did that. I got it placed in newspapers. My first placement was actually in Woman's Day magazine, which is
Wow.
no longer around.
Right.
But during the time, we had a full write up in Women's Day magazine. They put our phone number in, they put our website in. People started calling and getting the help that they needed. So it was great for the credit counseling agency, and it was wonderful because we reached so many people who needed the help. So I think that's the unique part of my situation, is that coming from the journalism background coupled with the financial education, I'm able to amplify the message of how to get help when you need it regarding your finances.
Well, and that's a really inspiring story, starting with your grandmother setting expectations for you, that you could grow and be bigger than, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's just awesome. So, and she set a good example, good role model for you, and then you worked your way up and out of that, circumstance, and look where you are now. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I will say that my grandmother always took me to the bank when she went to the bank.
Mhm,
She opened a savings account for me. I had a passbook savings account, I think at the
mhm.
age of 10. And she said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put money in here every month. We'll go to the bank. You'll see it grow. And I didn't realize that everybody didn't get to do that. So even
Mhm.
though we didn't have much money, she was so good with what she did have and showed me such a good example of how to manage money. It really, planted that seed in me. And so
Right.
I do think it's really important for parents and grandparents to expose any children in their life to what money is all about, because in the end, you'll pay off dividends greatly for the person.
Absolutely. And I love your vulnerability too, because I think, the storytelling and putting that out there really builds the credibility, and people know that, you're speaking from the heart. So that's huge. So tell me, where do you see the industry, your specific industry, growing to or doing over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so it's interesting because technology plays such a large role in every industry now. Um, and I mean, dare I say AI? Everybody's talking about AI,
Mhm.
but I do think that things will become a little more automated, and that's even with credit counseling and personal finance. There's so many good tools online that you can plug in your numbers and see where you stand. It can make pie charts for you. You can have your monthly statements, your profit and loss statements for your personal household done online, or by an Excel sheet if you're good with Excel. But I think that technology will make it even easier for people to get help if they do find themselves like upside down or in an uncomfortable position. And I do want to say, most of the people that we counsel, it's not because of them being frivolous. It's generally a life event that happens that really puts them in a place they're fine, they're going along fine, everything's working, and then it's a job loss, a death, sometimes having a new baby, a change in economic status somehow that kind of throws it off a little bit. And then They might struggle for 1 month, 2 months, but if they can't get it back quickly with interest rates being what they are, it can happen really fast where you're paying everything fine to I'm struggling and I need help. And I just really would like to say that as soon as people kind of feel like they're, ooh, am I getting upside down? Is this debt too much for me to handle? Are my interest rates crazy? To seek help sooner rather than later, because it's always
Mhm.
easier to solve the problem if you get there quicker. Um, but so I think that automation and AI will help personal finance in general. People just have to be really careful of where they go and who they give their information to. Because with the advent of AI and automation, scammers use that technology better than anybody. So we have to be very vigilant and careful not to trust people without vetting them, and not to just to sort of put your information anywhere.
That's perfect advice. And I will tell you that I have a client, her son was working. He got, and this was at the, I think this, yeah, it was 2008. That's how long ago it was. But he was working and was laid off right when we were having the market crisis. And then he had a huge medical event and incurred a tremendous amount of debt. But he didn't say anything to anybody about it until about a year and a half later when he was contemplating filing for bankruptcy. And that's when his mom reached out to me. And of
Mm.
course, in my wealth building profession, I wasn't someone that could help, but you would have been perfect for him. So that's awesome. Well, tell me, I'm going to change this and make it a little bit more personal.
Okay.
What's the biggest challenge that you faced thus far, whether it's personal or professional,
Oh, wow.
and how has that shaped the way that you're doing business today?
Okay. There's so many challenges in life, right? But I will say one challenge, and just because I've been in the industry so long now, I find is I we have to continually repeat ourselves over and over, and I sort of feel like, why isn't the message resonating? Why aren't people learning? So I would say one challenge is for people just to really face their own personal financial music, and really
Mm.
look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm going to deal with this, and get going with it. I do think that's one challenge, because America as a society, I really feel is very optimistic, which I love because I'm very much an optimist myself. But people get so optimistic with their finances that they overspend. They buy cars they shouldn't probably buy or be able to afford. Property taxes go up continuously. Inflation now, we can mention the egg issue, right? Everybody's talking about the eggs, but everything is going up, and people's salaries aren't going up as quickly as everything else. So I think that one of the challenges is that people just really should try to live below their means, and I don't feel that most Americans live that or even think about it. You know, they just think about where they are and what they want without contemplating.
And I find that we're such a consumer driven society. I mean, we see it, we want it, we get it. There's not a whole lot of thought that goes into, that decision making process. So, all
Right.
right, let me ask you another personal question. If you could have lunch with anybody,
Oh,
living or deceased, who would you pick to have that lunch with and why?
oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to say my grandmother because she's been gone now for 26 years. So it would definitely be her. And I think it would be, I mean, obviously just to spend great time, but just to thank her and let her know what's happening in my life. But
Yeah,
get all emotional now.
I
But
know. I get it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm sure she's absorbing all of this now. So wherever we envision them to be.
right,
So,
right, 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 right.
well, I would love to know how our listeners can contact you, reach out, learn more about the work that you do, and get your help if they need it.
Oh, amazing. Yes. So consolidatedcredit.org is the website. We have a ton of financial education on the website. It's all free. We have video education. We have two new courses that we just built out. So I would love people to go in and take the courses. One's geared for adults and one is geared for teenagers. We have booklets free for download or read online. But consolidatedcredit.org is a great place to start. And then also we have free counseling. So if somebody just wants budget counseling, or they kind of want to get a professional's take on where their finances are, they can call us and do that. And the phone number's on the website. They can either fill out a form and have a counselor call them or set up an appointment, or they can just call and speak to a counselor. But it's really easy, and people shouldn't be afraid to just reach out and see where they are at and get free professional help.
I think that's awesome. And tell me, can you work with anybody in the U.S. or do they need to be local to you?
Yeah, no, we work with all 50 states. We're a
Awesome.
nonprofit. We have an A plus rating with the BBB. We're just celebrating this year's our 32nd year in business. We have a great footprint and a great track record. And the mission is to help people. I mean, every day it feels so good knowing that we're helping so many people. And, when your finances are in order and good, it can save marriages, it can save relationships. It goes much more deeper than just money because money affects so much of people's lives. So it's very rewarding work, and I'm really think that anybody who's interested in getting a better financial education should just do it.
That's awesome. So you guys heard we need to visit her website and take advantage of those free resources, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think that's the most important thing,
Yeah.
and to do that sooner than later. So the very wise words that April has shared with us today. So we so appreciate you being a guest today, April.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it, Donna.
You're very welcome. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.